What if I told you the United Nations legally allowed bombing of a country, and it wasn't in a movie? Section 1. The moment that changed everything. On March 17, 2011, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 1973 for Libya. In a single line, it authorized all necessary measures to protect civilians. Diplomatic code that in practice meant a no-fly zone and the green light for airstrikes. 10 countries voted yes, 5 abstained: Germany, India, Russia, and China. And crucially, Russia and China didn't use their vetoes. The resolution passed. It sounds almost cinematic, a few paragraphs on paper that unlock the skies over a nation. Section 2. Why the UN acted, context, and the buildup. To understand why the Council moved, step back 2 weeks. The Arab Spring had reached Libya. Protests turned into an armed uprising against Muammar Gaddafi's 4-decade rule. By late February, Gaddafi's forces were shelling cities and threatening mass reprisals against populations in Benghazi and other towns. The Security Council had already responded with Resolution 1970 on February 26, sanctions, an arms embargo, and a referral of the Libyan situation to the International Criminal Court. But violence kept escalating, and diplomats were arguing over whether the world could stand by as civilians were threatened. That's when the responsibility to protect, the idea that the international community must step in to stop mass atrocities, came into the conversation. Resolution 1973 cited those concerns and put a legal frame around the idea of protecting civilians, not toppling governments. Section 3. What the vote actually did. So what did Resolution 1973 do on paper? It did 3 main things. It imposed a no-fly zone over Libya. It authorized all necessary measures to protect civilians and civilian-populated areas. And it reiterated that foreign occupation would not be tolerated. That last line, forbidding a foreign occupation force, was meant to ease fears of a permanent invasion. But the phrase, all necessary measures, is famously elastic. For diplomats drafting and voting on that text, a few words carried enormous weight. Section 4, from authorization to action, how the skies changed. The day after the resolution, Western and Allied forces moved quickly. A coalition spearheaded by France and Britain, and initially supported by the United States under Operation Odyssey Dawn, began strikes against Libyan military targets and enforcement of the no-fly zone. By the end of March, NATO assumed command under Operation Unified Protector and ran the campaign through October 2011. Those air operations degraded Gaddafi's air capabilities, protected rebel-held areas, and broke the regime's ability to move heavy weapons against civilians. Over months, air power combined with rebel advances to shift the balance. By August and September, rebel forces were able to press into Tripoli, and by October 20, 2011, Gaddafi was captured and killed. The UN mandate had been for civilian protection, but those actions, authorized by 1973, undeniably shaped the course of the war and the end of Gaddafi's rule. Section 5. The consequences, victories, debates, and a long shadow. And here's where the story gets complicated. For many Libyans, NATO strikes and the international intervention helped prevent immediate massacres and assisted in toppling an oppressive regime. For others, the intervention became the opening of a new era of instability. With Gaddafi gone, Libya fractured. Rival militias fought for power, central institutions weakened, and the state struggled to provide security. In the years that followed, Libya became a transit route for migrants headed to Europe, and pockets of extremist groups, including ISIS affiliates, took advantage of the chaos. Politically, Resolution 1973 sparked a heated global debate. Supporters pointed to the successful protection of civilian populations and argued it was a legitimate application of the responsibility to protect. Critics accused intervening powers of mission creep, saying a mandate to protect civilians morphed into actions that effectively aided regime change, and warned about the long-term costs of toppling a state without a plan for what came next. Russia, China, and others said they feared the precedent of bypassing sovereignty in future crises. Germany, Brazil, and India abstained, signaling discomfort even without blocking action. Section 6. A diplomat's dilemma and the question for us. Imagine being in that Security Council chamber. One line, all necessary measures. Could stop a massacre or open the door to unintended consequences. Would you back it, trust the UN to draw that line? That's the debate that has echoed ever since. Resolution 1973 shows how international law, military force, and moral responsibility can collide in real time, and how choices made in a council room ripple across nations for years. If you found this fascinating, send it to someone who loves history or international politics. I want to hear what you think. Was Resolution 1973 a life-saving intervention or a mistake that helped unleash long-term instability? Comment below and let's talk. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now to explore more remarkable moments from history, all in just 5 minutes.